Welcome to My Decadent Life. My name is Jennifer. Thanks for hopping on this video today. Today we're going to be doing a chatty get ready with me. So if this is your first video, this might seem a little bit weird because I'm going to kind of talk about what's been going on the last month. But if you are new, I would still appreciate it if you stayed and checked out maybe some of my other videos and caught up with us a little bit there. So I won't be talking about everything I'm using, I'm just going to put it on, but everything will be linked in the description box. And as always, feel free to just ask me in the comments if there's something that I may have missed or if you had a few more questions about it. I'm going to start. I have a fresh Clove & Hollow 05, and I definitely have a little bit of a tan already. I do wear my sunscreen when I go outside, but we have been outside a lot in the last couple of weeks. So I guess let's get started. So I'm just going to go ahead and blurt it out. So we are expecting baby number 3 and I'm so excited, and I was so excited. It wasn't technically planned, but we wanted baby 3. However, I really felt like it was hard almost to get pregnant with our first 2 daughters. So the fact that it was a surprise was just absolutely a true blessing. So we couldn't be happier. As I'm filming this, I am 17 weeks pregnant. And I am finally feeling like a human being again. I mean, I have had really sick pregnancies. To get just into a little bit of the backstory, with my first one, I would say it was a little bit worse than typical. I did not feel better after the first trimester. I was sick with her pretty much the entire pregnancy. And then I did have a second pregnancy miscarry at 9 weeks. And that in itself was really hard. But that pregnancy was also, I was vomiting so much with that pregnancy. And at that time I had not seen a doctor. So there was no, I guess like discussion of medicine or anything like that to help me feel better. So then I was pregnant with my second little girl, Odessa, and I did not mess around. Since I had had a miscarriage, I saw my doctor right away. We did a lot of blood work and things, and I was throwing up sometimes up to 10 times a day. And so the doctor, actually saw 2 doctors during that pregnancy because my doctor was on maternity leave herself. But both of the doctors were amazing and really tried to help me find some medicine that would work to make me feel better. Unfortunately, the medicine that I wanted to take was like $200 a month, even with health insurance. And at that time, we just felt like we couldn't afford it. But I was able to take Unisom, the active ingredient doxylamine, and also vitamin B6 together, and that really helped me feel better. Not perfect, but better. And with Odessa, I threw up until 28 weeks pregnant, and then occasionally till the end of my pregnancy. So it was really a hard time for me being pregnant with her. So excited to have her and to be pregnant, but definitely challenging just day by day. So I must have found out in the beginning of February that I was pregnant. And like I said, we were so unbelievably excited, but I was really surprised. And so it kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop. Like, I really felt like I got to plan things with my first pregnancies. And with this one, it was really like it just happened to me. Now, when I did the Ilia skin serum video, I had just found out I was pregnant. So I'll have to go back and look at when I posted that video, because that was one of the first, I did like a couple videos, but I remember that was one of the first ones I did after I found out I was pregnant and was really feeling pregnant. Because really, I found out almost immediately that I was pregnant, which is funny, but I had a wave of nausea one morning that I was like, whoa, that felt familiar. And I was like, no. And I'm like, well, maybe. So anyway, I took a test, and sure enough, it was pregnant. I really had about a week or so where I didn't feel much morning sickness, and I was, of course, really happy about that, hoping that perhaps I wouldn't, but it was like 5.5, 6 weeks, and it really started to kick in, and it did not, it didn't kick in 100%. It definitely like eased its way in, and for that I am kind of grateful, because it would be really hard to just wake up one morning and be so unbelievably sick. So I remember filming that Ilya video and feeling like I was really out of breath, and I was like, couldn't quite catch my breath, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and not that it needed to be a secret. I'm not necessarily somebody who feels like I have to keep my pregnancy private for a certain amount of time. However, having a miscarriage, I think I'm like sensitive to the fact that like I didn't want to share it with the entire world until I felt comfortable. And so I just remember filming that video and being like, oh my gosh, like I have this exciting news I'd like to share, but I was keeping it quiet. And that video was really pretty popular, and that was such a blessing to me. I was so excited. But unfortunately, almost right after that was when I got so sick, I like just shut down. To get through my days at the salon was truly all I could do. There was no get up early on a Saturday and get ready to film, and I did try. I mean, I have made videos in between. I did make videos in March. Anytime I felt good, I did not mess around, and my husband is super helpful. He's like, no babe, just go. Like if you feel good, just go and do it. So fast forward to the end of March. March 27th was the last day I worked, and we were then told we were not able to continue working anymore. It was definitely a really complicated situation being a self-employed hairdresser. I came home that Friday night and was literally like, I don't even really know what to think. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how we're going to pay our bills, pay my salon bills. My salon lease was due, you know, at the end of that month. I mean, that was right then and there. Thank goodness I had already, and really truly since last year, the end of last year, had been planning for a third maternity leave. So I had some money specifically set aside for me to not be working. However, if I'm being really honest, it was very upsetting to have to use it this past April. I really have a ton of feelings about that. I feel really like thankful and blessed that I had some of that money set aside, and also really like upset and kind of wary of what my maternity leave will now look like. So my due date is October 17th. However, I definitely went to 42 weeks with both of my girls, so I'm kind of planning for the end of October, maybe even the first couple days in November. So most of April was an honest blur. It ended up being, I was really sick, like I've already mentioned, and then on top of that, a lot of filling out forms and applications. We were eligible as sole proprietors for the PUA, which was like the pandemic unemployment something. So I say we, but like, you know, the local stylists and other people in similar situations had to wait until our system was even able to update so that we could apply for that. Fill out those applications and then do a lot of waiting and just hoping that you did it right. So as I am sitting here on May, 10th, Mother's Day, I have not received any of the pandemic unemployment for sole proprietors. I spoke with somebody on Friday, and she said that it looks like one payment was sent out on a debit card, which that was a whole nother story. So that was sent out, so I'm thankful that that is hopefully on the way, but my account still says that there's like a glitch or a problem, and I don't know what that problem is, so I'm still a little confused, but hoping that that's figured out. It was last week, Wednesday, when we finally received the stimulus, and I'm very thankful for the stimulus, so don't think that I'm complaining, but unfortunately, because there was a few different thoughts about this, but I think one of the things that it had to do with is that because I typically pay taxes in and I don't get a refund, it took the IRS system a while for me to be able to actually access it and update my account information so they could send a payment to us. Once I was able to do that, that was a 2-week waiting game too. So again, I was very thankful that I had my business. I was able to pay for my business with my account, but now I have to like try to figure out what I'm going to do for my maternity leave, because when you're self-employed, your maternity leave is essentially just your savings account. This is the 3rd time doing this, and it'll be different every time. I took a traditional maternity leave with my first daughter. My husband had a job that summer where he was able to work sometimes 60 hours a week, and with his overtime, I really was able to be off and for us to meet all of our bills. With my second little girl, it wasn't quite the case. My husband has a different job, a much more like stable and family-friendly job, and we have health insurance with his job that he has now. We still pay for it, but it's a much better policy than we ever had options for before, and before I was paying for myself and the girls out of my business. So those have been blessings, but we just weren't able, he wasn't able to do like that overtime to compensate. So with Odessa, I went back to work at 2 weeks, and I actually took her with me, which taking a baby to a salon, iffy, but my clients who I saw during that time were so phenomenal and understanding, and we just made it work. Now I work at a cute little boutique. I am close with everybody who works there. So my little girl was able to snuggle with the lady out front at the boutique most of the time. And then when people were processing, I was able to like take her to our break room, our little back. We have a really nice back room area, and nurse her and change her and do all those things. And my clients were phenomenal. They were just so appreciative that I was able to come in, that if baby needed me, they were like, go check on her, do whatever you needed. But that isn't truly the maternity leave that I wanted. I'm thankful that it worked out that way. I'm thankful for everybody who helped me with that, but I would have loved like 8 weeks home with my new baby without those obligations. So truly that was, you know, overall kind of hard. So I guess now that this has all happened, I am starting back at square one, but with really truly only like, what is it, like 5? What is it? How many months is that? Let me count. Yes, I was right, 5 months. So truly 5 months to prepare for baby to come. So really hope that I get that all squared away. So some of the other things that are kind of going on, like during April then, while I wasn't able to work at the salon, I wasn't really on YouTube or my Decadent Life on Instagram very much, because I sort of shifted and did a little bit more with trying to be present on like my business Facebook, and I did some lives and, you know, some more like interactive things over there, just to kind of like keep in touch with everybody and sort of be encouraging, you know, and just keep that presence. And then the other thing definitely that kept me busy is just being in contact with almost a whole month's worth of customers. Some people were a little bit more, you know, like kind of curious about what was going on, and other people were just very patient and understanding, and we're just like, nope, I'm not in a hurry. I am just fine to wait. You know, you just kind of let me know. And other people were like, I'm ready to come in as soon as possible. So it definitely was like quite a bit of, you know, correspondence and that type of thing, which totally makes sense. You know, like I said, I wanted to make sure I was keeping up those lines of communication so people really knew what was going on. So we were able to open up on May 1st, which is a Friday. I need to use this highlighter more often. That's so pretty. I think this will be really pretty for spring and summer. So the hardest part about it was he told us, our governor told us on Tuesday that we could open up on Friday. But we did not have our guidelines to how we could safely reopen until Wednesday, and some on, I think, Thursday still. So it was almost impossible to feel ready to open on Friday. So I ended up kind of going to my salon and just like making sure everything was clean and I had what I needed and sort of doing my best, and then also messaging about 35 people to make sure everybody knew like when how I was going to go about the reopening process. So the actual reopening process is a whole another story, because that really truly I was like, I'm just gonna dive in head first and I am just gonna see as many people, and maybe I can work weekends and maybe I can do this and maybe I can do that, and I'm just gonna like do everything I can and get like 35 people in the next 2 weeks. Like, let's do a month's worth of work in 2 weeks. That was my plan. Well, one of our criteria is to wear a mask. And that seemed absolutely reasonable to me in the beginning until I actually had to do a whole day at the salon wearing a mask. And I quickly realized that probably was not going to work for me. I do not know how nurses and doctors do it. I do not know. Some people have commented that there is something to be said about being used to it, and I don't know if that's real or not. But one thing I can say is that being pregnant and not feeling great, still having an upset stomach often, and that shortness of breath, wearing the mask, in about 10 minutes I am out of air, it feels like really out of air. And I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I did 2 8-hour days this past week. And at the end of those 2-hour days, when I got out and into my car, I felt so lightheaded. I almost felt like I shouldn't have driven home. I was shaky. My stomach really hurt when I got home. My husband even commented, he said, like, you haven't felt this bad for over a week. And I was like, am I crazy that it's the mask? And he's like, no. Because he has had to do, where he has had to wear like respirators. And he said even wearing those respirators, which is probably easier to breathe in a respirator than a traditional kind of mask. He said even that was often really hard for him and uncomfortable. And he said one of the things was like the mind game that went along with it, like the knowing you're not really breathing, or the feeling of like, I need to take a bigger breath or I need to get a deeper breath, and then thinking that you almost can't. So he said it's kind of like you're psyching yourself out. So I kind of was like, well, what am I gonna do? I have now like, well, about 3 weeks of appointments completely booked, with people that are very, excited to get in and see me, and likewise. And again, my livelihood, like, what's safe for me, what's safe for the baby, truly even like putting myself out into the public, that's a whole nother story. But the feeling of like, I need to keep my business going because I need to work so I can take off more time in the fall so I can have my baby. And ideally, my thoughts were like, oh my gosh, I had a whole month off of work. Like, I have been beating myself up for not making a ton of YouTube videos. I'm like, I could have pumped out 4 or 5 videos a week and grown my subscriber base. And then my husband's like, babe, you couldn't. Like, you were physically and emotionally exhausted. And he's like, you weren't not doing things. He's like, you were busy either with our kids or on the phone. Like my husband said, he's like, babe, you didn't just waste your time. He's like, you were sick, you were stressed, you were emotional. And he's like, and you did still, he's like, work, essentially. I mean, not the kind of work that actually generates money, but he's like, you stayed in contact with your clients and you were still essentially running your business without actually getting to do your job. So I kind of think now what I'm feeling is almost a little bit of guilt, like I could have pulled it together maybe. Do you ever like, once you kind of come out of like a like a circumstance, like, you know, not feeling good, for instance, or whatever. And then you almost want to tell yourself, like, you're kind of a wimp. That wasn't that bad. Like, you should have tried harder. You could have did it. Like, you had the time. You could have gotten up and got ready to film. And then I have to remind myself, like, but you were throwing up and couldn't hardly eat anything but noodle soup for breakfast. Maybe you need to just give yourself some grace and realize that you did do pretty much what you could do. So somehow I think I timed this very well. I wasn't sure exactly how much I was going to ramble and how long this was going to take. So I have been so excited for spring so I could start wearing this Bite Beauty. This is the color Stinger, and obviously I can wear this whenever I want, but there's something about this color that just screams spring to me. So I kind of had it on back burner until I felt like it was, and we have these beautiful like 65-degree days going on right now. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really appreciate it. If this was your first time, I know that this video might have seemed a little weird, but I definitely wanted to take some time and just do a good update. My channel is almost a year old and it is growing nice and slow and steady, but it is growing, and I appreciate every single one of you, and I just wanted to take some time just to sort of purge what's been on my mind. And now that I'm feeling better, I'm so excited to get back into it. I have a hair video coming for you, so if you're interested in that, stay tuned. I am a hairdresser, for those of you who don't know. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to make sure you see everything else that is coming up, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.